Hey friends, before we get into the podcast, I do just want to warn you that our audio is a bit wonky this time around. It's not like horrendous, but it definitely is different than the other episodes we've done. And I'm still trying to figure that one out, but know that by next podcast, we will have things figured out. And I just want to apologize for this episode specifically. But with that, we hope that you do enjoy, and thank you so much again for watching.
Thanks for joining the Life's Better podcast, where we say life is so much better with God, community, and purpose. Now, for those of you who are regular listeners, watchers of the show, you might have noticed that we took the month off last month.
Yes, we did.
But we're back in it, and kind of the main reasons why we took it off was because I don't enjoy doing this nearly as much without Josh. And Josh was gone much of the month of June. Mm-hmm. And so now that we're back, we thought, hey, well, let's get back to it. And to introduce the topic today, I want to ask you kind of a random question. So do you ever kind of read through those articles that rate the most influential people of all time, like throughout history? Like, have you ever,
I've
100, top 50, top 10? Mm-hmm. Okay, who is almost always number one? Any guesses?
Jesus has to be it, right? Like, I mean,
that's whenever I see one of those articles, my first instinct is I want to know, hey, is Jesus still number one? Because almost everybody's list includes him at number one. Now, that being said, I've read a couple where it's like, okay, he's number two. For some reason, it's like, yeah,
it's
right.
Like Al Gore number one or something, like whoever invented the internet.
Yeah, Al Gore and Jesus are always, they're always quite shocking for that first position. I was actually reading one of those articles a number of years ago, and I was surprised to see, I don't know why I was, but I was surprised to see Moses at number 4. So Moses in the Bible is number 4, and I thought, okay, well, why is he? Because there was always like, and here's why they're ranked the way they're ranked. And when I read it, it wasn't because he helped rescue the nation of Israel out of Egypt, establishing them as the Israelite nation, a nation that's still making a huge impact on our world to this day. Wasn't for that.
Is it the commandments? Is that
so
why?
Specifically, one. The article explained that he was the first person to institute a day off for humanity.
Oh.
So before that, no historical evidence has ever pointed to a nation, a people.
Did he institute it?
Well, see, that's the thing. When I read that, I kind of chuckled and laughed because it's like, okay, yeah, well, sure, Moses was a part of it, but it was God's idea, right?
Yeah.
It was God's idea.
Oh, man.
And so today, what we're actually going to be talking about is this really cool gift that God gives us. But as I talk to most Christians, it's a gift that a lot of Christians aren't fully unpacking to experience the blessing of. And it's not just a day off. Instead, it's actually a Sabbath. And we're going to combine this with an experience that Josh had for much of the month of June, which was a sabbatical. And if these are new terms to you, then you definitely want to continue listening because we're going to talk about them. Now, when it comes to the day off that Moses instituted based on God's command, it's found in Scripture in a couple of places, but most notably probably Exodus in the 10 commandments. In fact, it's number 4 of the 10 commandments, and it's not just commanding that you have a day off, it's commanding that you participate in what is known as a Sabbath. Now, a lot of people are familiar with that term, but just in case someone's not, I'm going to read this section. It takes up about 30% of the 10 commandments. But the 10 Commandments aren't very long, so if you're going to be like, wow, he's just going to be reading for a long time. I'm not. But I do want to unpack this just a little bit, because in Exodus chapter 20, verse 8, it says, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. So right from the start, it's not just, take a break. There's something sacred about this day. It says 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. So again, this is not just about, I need time to relax. I need to refresh myself. This is actually having to do with your relationship primarily with God. On it, you shall not do any work, neither you nor your sons or daughters, nor your male or female servants, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. And so this, again, is not just for the breadwinner of the house. This is for the entire family. If you employ people, it's for those that you employ. It's for those that you might hire to do certain things. Like this is for everybody. And then it explains, okay, what's the precedent for this? Verse 11, for in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. So again, not just your normal day. This is actually, if you look at the creation account, this is the very first thing that God ever says is sacred, is holy, is set apart. This is a really important day. And so what we're going to do is we're going to unpack the importance of a Sabbath for your life rhythms and how to fully unwrap this gift that God is not just giving, but kind of commanding us to engage. But at the same time, we're going to explore how, because we have a church that wants to even extend that blessing, you experience something called a sabbatical, which, at least for our church, is instituted when a staff member has worked 7 years and you are given a minimum of 3 weeks above and beyond your normal vacation to be able to engage Sabbath type practices. And that's what you were able to do in June. And so we're going to hear your story as we unpack how you guys can unwrap a Sabbath for your own life.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are 4 aspects of a Sabbath that we see. The first aspect that you really need to engage in is you need to stop. And the clear command is you need to stop from what?
Work.
You got to stop from work.
Yeah.
You got to stop working, stop laboring, stop hustling. You have to stop. We see this when God is created for 6 days, and then He stops. And what we need to do is we need to learn how to stop. Some of us, we even on our day offs, even on our Sabbaths, we want to continue working, but it's important to stop. For you, Josh, you were able to stop work for just over 3 weeks, and I'm curious, leading into that, what were some of the things that you're like, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to stop this. Particularly, I mean, summer months busy. So, I mean, you're programming multiple camps, multiple different experiences. So what were some of those like, oh man, I cannot wait to stop doing this?
You're nailing it. And I've said this before, I think even on our podcast, but some of my I don't want to say least favorite things, but maybe the things that take the most energy is camp organization and camp prep. Going to camp, it's hard, but it's fun and it's exciting. Yeah. But the camp prep is nerve wracking. And then once you're there, it's I've done all I can. So this is it, we're in it. And so the month before June is a tough, camp prep month. And on top of that, we had, multiple students graduating. We were in the middle of and ending a series that we were doing with the students on Wednesday nights. And so it was just one of those things where leading up to the end of June, which was also Fall Creek Falls, I was just I am excited to kind of just take all of this and set it aside. And literally, you saw my office probably for all of June, leave all of the camp stuff in there.
Pillows,
and leave.
probably food items that are now rotten.
My first day back was I told Emily on Sunday, I think Monday is going to be a lot less of stepping back into that camp prep rhythm and more into let's just make a space that's clean, which was about half my Monday. But June, one of the thing I was looking forward to as soon as camp or Fall Creek Falls was ending was, okay, I get to just kind of take all of that prep work, take everything that I all of the lesson writing, all of that stuff that was happening, and just be okay, let's just leave it here for a little while.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, even when it comes to a Sabbath rhythm and routine. There are things that you just need to make sure you've got 6 days to accomplish it, so you can leave it, completely and to the side.
Importantly, not think about it.
And really, it requires a lot of work in those 6 days to be able to get to that point. But when you're able to get to that point, it's like this relief. It no longer has to occupy so much of my mental space. Now, the problem I think some of us have with Sabbath is we just kind of find ourselves wanting to do certain tasks and work. What were some of the things that for you, you're like, man, this is going to be tough. I kind of want to do this and I kind of want to do that still. And I still want to work on this. What were some of those things?
So, especially with Fall Creek Falls having just happened and, there's this camaraderie that gets built with students and in between students. And just that excitement. And then on top of that, like there were very clearly like certain students were just, getting close to making like important decisions, or even just like seeing, over the last few months, we've seen a lot of baptisms. And so there's just this like fire, and I've tried to cultivate this relationship with most of them where they know like this is Josh's number. And if I ever need and have questions, I can text him.
Right.
And I'll be honest, like there was plenty of times where like I got texts and I was just like, you know what, I'm excited. Let's talk about this really quick.
Sure.
But that was tough because not seeing them weekly, multiple times a week, not talking to them regularly, it was just one of those things where like the discipleship part I love.
Yeah.
And to step out of that was like tough. And the best way I can say that I still did it was I knew that I had good workers here that they could talk to.
Yeah.
If we didn't have that, then I would have felt like I was, abandoning them for a month, but I knew that they had people.
It's neat that not only you felt the confidence of giving your volunteers some of those tasks and responsibilities, but it's also good that, your heart was still in the ministry, because honestly, so much of a healthy ministry comes down to relationships. And so it's kind of nice that you are not, I can't wait to get away from these people. They're driving me nuts.
Yeah.
That's a healthy.
And I'm sure
desire.
you've heard people like I feel so bad for people who have jobs where they're just like, I can't wait to get away from these people, and I don't feel that way about this place at all. And so like that was a good feeling at the same time, where it was just like, man, I'm missing the people most of all. So yeah.
What would you say is one of the blessings that really came from being able to stop?
Okay, a lot of things. I'm gonna talk because we're gonna get into like the delight later, which we'll explain. But specifically on the like relationship with God side, I think there's a temptation always, and especially in ministry. But even those of you that are like heavy volunteers who are listening to this, you can maybe like get a little bit of this, where you can be tempted to combine the work you're doing for God with the love that God has for you. And I think I've also heard this from people time and time again who are in ministry, but like to be able to step out of it and to steal that is my heavy country accent coming out of everyone's, to still feel like a deep love from God and blessings from God, and to know that my worth as a child of God is not in my work, but is in just who his love for me is big. And to be reminded, like again, we were talking about like the things I missed, to be reminded that like this is something that I'm invited to step into every day. It's not something that I'm like I have to do. Like our church is not like dependent on me. It's completely dependent on God, and God has invited me here, and he's given me 8 great years of ministry, and he's going to continue to give me ministry time here. Is a really good feeling. I wrote down the best way I can describe it is that I felt like Psalm 23, 1-3, which is, he is my shepherd. I have everything I need. He leads me beside quiet waters and restores my soul. Yeah. Like specifically that part where it just felt like he was restoring that, like, you are mine. My love for you is not dependent on your work. And I'm inviting you to continue to step into this ministry. It's just like,
that's good. Yeah. That's good. I think that's an important reminder, even for those who are not able to experience a sabbatical, but each Sabbath that you stop working, there is that sense of, okay, wait, my identity is kind of connected to the work and what I produce, but the world's not coming to an end when I stop work. Maybe my value doesn't just come from what I produce. Maybe it actually comes in this relationship that I have with God.
Which is a very vulnerable place to be, because like there is like a part of me that when you're gone, you feel like, oh man, they're gonna realize they don't need me. But it's a good in the end, it was a good feeling of, I'm like it's all God, and God's like my worth is not in that, but it's in my relationship with him. So
that's great. That's great. So the first step in really unpacking that gift of Sabbath is to stop. The second is to rest, and we see that God did resting. So he works for 6 days, he creates for 6 days, and then on the seventh, well, there's rest. And for us on a Sabbath, that rest oftentimes just has to do with like, sleep. I talk to so many people, and I'm definitely part of the group. I mean, you're just not getting that recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And so it's like, okay, let's try at least to get 8 hours, maybe take a nap and like maybe get 8.5 hours or something. And that's good. That's good for your soul. That's good for your body. But that rest could also include resting not just physically, but also resting emotionally connecting with those that you love.
Yeah.
And without an agenda, just talking, having those conversations spiritually through worship. But rest is really, really important. And so when it comes to the rest that you experienced, the question I have for you is, what were a few things that you were able to really rest from and in?
So, Emily, my wife, in case people are listening that don't know us, we both have this time off because Emily is off of school as a teacher, and so man, we talked about that a little bit, where it's just like, man, you get a sabbatical every year. It's kind of cool. But anyway, we love to travel, and something that we've really not gotten to do as much as we'd like to since COVID has been to travel. And like we love adventuring out, and it's weird how like when we're at home, like especially Emily can be a homebody. Like she loves like staying home. And if plans get canceled, it's just like one of those things of like, oh man, we have all this opportunity to do things we want to at home. But like when we both like plan to travel, there's just this energy that we get from it and this excitement that we get from it. And so spending time together, and forcing me actually to not really be on my phone because I couldn't have service there, and to just be together in Europe, going to multiple places, seeing things we've never seen before, and just talking a lot, like getting that time to be together and to step out of work, step out of our responsibilities at home, and to just like really enjoy each other's company was really great.
Yeah, that emotional rest that you guys needed.
Man, and I wrote like we probably exercised more than we normally did by walking everywhere, and we got like as much sleep as we could, but like at the same time we were just excited to be in new places. And to me that was rest, like if that makes sense. It was mental rest. It was in a way spiritual rest with the time that we spent together, even with God, but like just rest together. And to like I'm spoiling a few other answers, but like one of the biggest things I got from this was just time with Emily, and we got to talk about things we'd never talked about before, and think about future together, and it was very restful in that way.
Is there a rhythm that you had this past month that you're thinking, you know what, that wasn't a part of our normal Sabbath rhythm, but it needs to be. Let's add it.
We've actually already started to do this, which is cool. But we realized that we both like really loved walking together. And that sounds strange, but like I've learned on this like sabbatical that my phone can prevent me from resting. That sometimes when I'm at home and I'm just on my phone, like that is not restful at all. And I don't get much out of it. And so to like, especially a walk where you have to be paying attention to where you're going, we realize like if we're on a walk together, we have no other things other than each other to keep each other company. And it's nice to just kind of like go out and talk and walk for an extended period of time. And so we're trying to do that every day together.
Cool.
And when we miss it, it feels bad. And so we just take a quick one. Even that feels like we're robbing ourselves. And so we're trying to do that every day. I know that once like we step back into some busy, like when she's like in teaching, we're not hard to be a little more, I guess, planning about it. Yeah. But like right now in the summer months, like it's been good. Like when I get home, it's like, all right, let's go. Yeah. Like, and that's cool. And then on top of that, I've stepped into like privately going out and walking and listening to either just scripture being read or a book. And it's helped me get through books faster because I used to like if I'm at home and I'm like I'll throw it on while I'm cooking, but like then I'm not paying attention, so I'm like rewind, like what did he say there? I'm completely lost. But on a walk, like you're fully like engaged with what is going on, and so walks, weirdly enough, walks and less phone, are what I'm bringing out of this for myself for rest.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I read somewhere that out of all the exercise, when it comes to people who are living long, healthy lives, the one exercise that always comes up is their walkers. So not the runners, not the sprinters, not the bodybuilders. It's walking. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I think there's like I don't know like there's a healthy renewal to it too, because like you're slowed down and like you're I don't know, when you're hyper focused on everything like we can be with even our phones and with TVs and with computers and our work, and like if you can just step out of that for a little bit and like set the pace even on your walk, like it sets the pace for your mind. I don't know. I sound like such an old person because I've seen like 60-year-olds walking and I'm just like,
come on, man,
you're wasting time.
You're not even breaking a sweat, buddy.
But like now I'm into it. So
yeah. Well, the first step in unpacking that Sabbath is to stop. Second is to rest, and then third is to delight. And we see this in that creation account when God stops and he looks at what he's created. He just constantly is like, oh, that's good. Oh, I'm delighting in this. And then when he creates it all, it's like, oh, it's very good. So there's delight in even what God has created. And when we have a chance to have a Sabbath and we actually stop and we begin to rest, oftentimes that allows us to begin to see where God has been at work in our lives. And it creates this perspective of gratitude for all that he's given us and all he's done, which ultimately leads to, this, hey, I'm just grateful to be alive. And that actually bleeds us into even the fourth, but we'll hold on to that one. Some of it just has to do with like, okay, your heart and your soul, what brings you delight? And for some people, what brings them delight is playing sports, going on a walk. What brings them delight on a Sabbath would be maybe having a cheeseburger because you've been eating healthy the rest of the week, or whatever it is. Like find some things that just bring you this delight. What were top four things that brought you guys delight?
So number 4, I'm going to say is all the different foods we tried. One of my favorite things, even at home, and if you know me, you can get me talking about food and like the local restaurants. Like I love discovering new food. And so when we were in Europe for about 2 of those 3 weeks, I just got so excited about like all these new kinds of foods that I'd never had. And so number 4 is easily like I tried some of the best food I've ever had in my entire life. And I was just like, God, you are so cool with all of the different like kinds of stuff that people fix and make.
This may be a hard question.
Okay.
Like, hey, what's your favorite song? And it's like, dude, I got 1,000 songs. But if you had to have one dish right here, right now, today, what would it be?
It's easy. Paella, which is just, you know what paella is?
It's a Spanish
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, I think the best way to describe it is that it's very similar to jambalaya. It's like authentic jambalaya. If you've ever had that from New Orleans, I think they pulled this dish from paella. Okay. But it's full of seafood. Like this one specifically had like seafoods I've never had before, like octopus and like abundance of mussels and shrimp. And it was so
way to hate that.
Oh, it was. Seafood.
She's probably, if she's listening to this, she's probably
I'll be real, like the octopus was weird, but like everything else in it, like just this mixture of like all this food, and you learn that paella takes like hours to make.
Okay.
So like it's just this like labor of love type of thing, and it's just it's awesome. It's so good.
Is there one thing that you tried that you were like, that's the last time I tried that?
Not really.
Okay, good.
Everything was so good.
That's great.
Maybe I don't know if I'd vote to have octopus and things, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. If somebody was like, "Here's octopus and this," I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, whatever."
Yeah,
but
probably not going to
go out of my way to order it.
Yeah. Okay, I totally broke your rhythm.
Yeah. So number 4 is food.
Yeah.
3, I'm just gonna combine it all with adventure. Seeing like these. One of the coolest things I think we saw was really, really old, like before even the 10th or 11th century, like churches and places of worship. And just to know, like, it's different. It's a very different vibe. Like some of the things obviously like made me cringe a bit. Like there's these really, really old, elaborate churches that have all these people taking pictures and stuff, but like worship doesn't really happen in them anymore. And that hurts. But like just to know that God has been moving in people's hearts for thousands of years was so cool. And then like, I don't know, I think the most beautiful thing I saw beyond, all of these beautiful pieces of architecture was in Doolin, Ireland, of all places, which we just went to because it was my last name. We were like, we gotta go. It's our last name. Why not?
Yeah.
And we ended up seeing like the Cliffs of Moher, which is just like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Like legitimately, never seen like nature and had that kind of emotional and like spiritual response of just like, God, you are so cool and good. And to go to new places and to experience that was just really cool. So delighting in, not only how God has moved in people's hearts for thousands of years, but also to see how cool his creation is. And then number two, I wrote, I'm trying to make these like, not as cheesy answers as you guys would expect. But one of the coolest things that happened on this time was remembering. God gave me these little moments where I remember like all the things he's been like leading us through over the last 8 years. Because I tried, I'm getting this as like a break. So when's the last time we had something like this? And it was easily in college. Like that's how long ago it's been since I've been able to like kind of take this type of break and remember. And in the midst of all of this, we get a call from Honduras, which is just a place that's been really special in Emily and I's heart for 10 plus years now. And we've been sponsoring this kid through the Sponsor Sparrow program for, I think, 10 years. Like it's been a very, very long time. We've seen her through graduating high school, and now we're helping her with her like the next step. It's not really, you wouldn't call it necessarily college, but it's like there's like a level between that, and she's in that right now. And there's just I'm not going to get into it in here, but there's been a really difficult thing that's happened in her personal life that we've been praying for the last 7-8 months. And it's gotten worse and worse and worse until just this where it kind of like, rock caught between a rock and a hard place where something had to give. And basically through this awful situation, they have like Sparrow like took her in to the where all of the teams have been meeting. And the week that they kind of like, for your sake, let's have you be with us. She got really close with the team, and then through a live stream, we got to see her baptized, which is just like, and she had made this decision, and she wanted to talk to us and like be like, thank you so much for like your like how you've gotten me here. And it was just like this really emotional moment where we're like, okay, God is so good. Like he is so cool. How over the last 8 years, he's been using us in all of these different ways, and we can remember them. But this moment was just like here's a nice little gift for you to delight in everything that you've done. And then number one was, I've already talked about it, but like Emily's biggest love language is quality time. I got to give her as much quality time as she wanted. It was interesting towards the end of those, like the 3.5 weeks that we took. We were at a dinner, like together, just kind of sitting in each other's and enjoying each other's presence. And she looked over and she saw like this couple like engaging in conversation, who were very clearly like on a like second or third date type of thing. And she looked over at me and she goes, "We're not talking very much, and it's not a bad thing." And she was like, normally, like at the end of a day, it's like, I have all these things I want to talk to you about. But she's like, for the last 3.5 weeks, we've been in each other's company this whole time. And so I don't have anything I need to catch you up on. We're just sitting and enjoying. Like, it was just this, like, it's cool to have that time. And we've made memories and that will carry us through for a while. And Emily's already like, we gotta think about 7 years from now, like where are we gonna go next? She like it was neat, and at the same time, like I feel a closeness with Emily that we probably haven't had for a while. If that makes sense.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's good. Well, we've got.
I feel like I'm sorry if I'm talking way more about this than you guys care about.
For those that actually love you and want to hear your story, they're still listening. For everyone who just like saw us on YouTube, they left like 20 minutes ago. But we've got to stop if we're going to fully unpack this gift. We've got to rest. We really have opportunities to delight all the time, but actually taking the chance to do it, unfortunately, we don't always. And then finally, it's worship. The fourth aspect is worship, because what we read is that this is a day unto the Lord your God. Yeah. This is not just about you. This is actually about a relationship with God. And so for a lot of people, that might actually mean coming to a church service and intentionally engaging in praise and worship. It might mean, if you're not able to do something like on a Sunday morning with the church, it might mean a special time in prayer. But finding ways to actually bring this to God and just say, hey, because of how great you are, I can stop and I can rest in the fact that you've got it, and I can see all these wonderful blessings, all these things I'm grateful for. Now all I want to do is worship you. Mm-hmm. And so for you, what did worship look like? What did being intentional about making this not just a vacation?
So, and first off, it started with mentality too, where, you have to decide. And I think we have to do this even with our weekly Sabbath, where we have to decide this is not just for me. It is for you, but like, it's not just about you. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about like indulging. It's really about like, what is going to like benefit me in the long run when it comes to my relationship with God, and looking at it as a gift from God. And that helped me drastically with everything we did. And not just being like, okay, let's set aside time to pray, which we did, or set aside time to like really like, read or do anything like that, to spend time like in God's word. But even in like the fun things, even in the like the food and the adventures, like how can I be in just a state of gratitude, not only to my church, but also to God, and to how great it is that He has given me this time. And one thing, especially for this, that I tried to establish was, since Camp Calvary is coming up, and it's all about prayer, I was like, let's make sure that we are nailing the way that I want to teach them about like how good it is to get one-on-one time with our God, and how it really is just this invitation to spend time renewing yourself in a closeness, because you can't have a good relationship with anyone if you're not talking to them. And so like prayer became a big focus for me, and trying to do that like pray without ceasing thing, where like in everything, and it's really easy when you're out of like your normal routine, but like in everything we saw is like, okay, how do I see God moving in this? How am I seeing God, like especially with those churches, like what am I seeing God do in and through people here for thousands of years? What am I seeing God do even a small little town like Doolin, and talking with people like there about their like what do you guys believe? And like there's like heavy Catholic influence there, but like how does that impact your life? And for me, like I'm stepping out of it, but like for worship, it was majorly gratitude, and just seeing not only like the cool adventures, but also remembering what God has done over the last 8 years. And we just got out of Fall Creek Falls, and I talked heavily about how important it is for me to like have things that are written out that I can remember. And I took with me and spent a lot of time in that journal, not only writing new things, but rereading old things, and just knowing like, man, like God has been in every step, and He's going to continue to do that, and remembering and praying over, what is my ministry going to look like? talking like in worship and in prayer, like God, here is, the next few years, next 7, next 8, next 10. What is it going to look like? I don't know, but God, I know I've loved what you've done, I'm excited to see what it is that you're going to do in and through me and Emily in the next 8, 10 years, or however long it takes us to get to another like break where we can think about, okay, what is the next moment going to be? And something that I can easily do is worry about those things. And so there's this book that I've been reading, Louis Giglio. I talk about him all the time, but Winning the War on Worry has been a book I read the whole time I was in sabbatical. And one thing he heavily focuses on is identifying the lies that you believe and speaking God's truth over them, which is something that you've talked about with you have that pattern with your boys. Mm-hmm. And so with the sabbatical, a lot of it was focused on, okay, I have these fears about the future, whether it's in my personal life, whether it's big decisions that Emily and I need to make about like kids or something like that. I have these fears about, am I going to still be able to be the youth pastor that I need to be, or be the worship pastor that I need to be? Even just there's this moment where Satan will try to get you to fear what's coming next, because he'll say, okay, Josh, your ministry looks way different than it did when you first started. What if that changes super drastically again? Will you be able to handle it? And to just be like, okay, it's not me. Time and time again, it's not me. It's not me. It's God. And I just need to be faithful in my yes. I just need to let him do what he wants to do, and to invite him into every decision, and to tell him, your ways are going to be way better than mine. So you do what you want to do instead of what I want to do. And I hope that helps. I feel like I've written a lot, and it's just one of those things I didn't want to miss any of it.
I like that you brought up, even the future and, children and those type of things, because the big question that our family had was, so while Josh Doolin and Emily Doolin are in the town of Ireland, Doolin, are the Doolins going to make another Doolin? That was the big question that we had. So I guess time will tell, but we're excited about maybe that actually happening. I'm sure you've got other thoughts.
I know we've probably gone over 30 minutes.
For those that know Josh, you can ask any other questions that you might have of him. We're just glad that we were, as a church, able to give you that gift. Obviously, it was something that God put on our hearts, and you took full advantage of it. And for those of you who are yet to have unpacked, a Sabbath each week, you may not get a sabbatical anytime soon, but you can definitely experience a Sabbath. And so we want you to encourage you to stop, to actually take those times of rest, find delight in all the things that God has given you, and let that lead you into worship. Until next time, don't forget that God is so much better, and he is so much richer when you have him in community. And then when you find purpose in serving him and those around you, life is much sweeter.